guest presenters such as Cassandra Jean-Pierre from Long Island City, who's a case manager. We also had Tamara and Fred Gittner, who work here at Central Library, one in New Americans program and one as the health coordinator, to be able to understand how when we partner and we're building these relationships, we're looking for mission statement to mission statement, understanding the important pieces of being able to bring together our organizations. So today, we're going to look at how we as staff members, no matter what level and no matter what title, can assist customers when they interact with organizations, right? And then we're going to think about certain techniques to provide a quick assistance, maybe like I say, a 30 or 60-second intervention to help customers with external reference needs, whether this is external to a website, this is external to information online, or if this is a referral to an actual physical organization. So when we think about the library today, we want to consider it as a new style of providing information, right? Historically, libraries have played a major role with literacy and played a major role of being a hub, centralized place where you can come to the library as a final point to get that information. However, the shift of the library, as we've talked about in the recent weeks and the last webinars, has really changed not only to be this final destination for information, but we're really seen as a gateway and a passage to external information and external resources. So what was once a mode of people coming to the library, getting that information, and the library provided that information fully, we are now seeing an increase of patrons and customers coming into the library to ask about other organizations and ask about other resources and ask about things that the library does not provide. So in the previous workshops, we did talk about, how do we view ourselves in the library and how do we view the library as this hub for information. And so we want to think about the library as an access point, not a final destination. And we must be able to provide a new space and a different type of space for new types of learning and engagement with our customers. Now, all of these sessions have been heavily focused on immigrant customers, English language learners, but as I assume that many of you know that all of this information is actually replicable and relatable to any customer who comes into the library, regardless of age groups, regardless of socioeconomic background. These things are places where we want to be prepared on all levels to support our customers, whether you work with children, whether you work directly with technology, whether you're an instructor, whether you're a manager, it doesn't matter. We really want to be able to see the shifting mode in the library. And so as we go through today, I'll be talking about a few examples of preparing our customers for interacting with other organizations, other programs, and other departments. When we do make some references and referrals internally, we do want to think about what are the things that each department requires for the customer to effectively be able to participate openly and fully. For instance, if the customer might need time in itself, in certain programs you might have to register, such as the Adult Learner Program, you register for a class, you take a pretest. So you have time that needs to be that resource. Additionally, they might need some form of proof of address, they might need some form of identification, depending on what the need is and what they're looking for. Other times, it might be that a customer might need to be equipped with an email address, right? So we're going to explore these different ways that we as library staff members can continue to prepare our customers as best as possible when it comes to interacting with us even more and interacting with others. So, in order to be prepared, we need to first get into the mind of the customer. And of course, we can't do that all the time, but we want to think about what are the challenges that the customer might have when it comes to interacting and working with other communities or other organizations. So, one big piece is fear. Fear is a driver in many instances where the customer may not have had experience working with organizations such as the library, having access to information. They might not understand or might not fully conceive the idea of open access to information. Additionally, they might have fear of systems. The library, although it is simplified for our customers, still is a very complex system. And on top of that, when they're coming to the library so that they can find these resources, they are now going to be encountering even more challenging systems. When you think about referring customers to the Social Security Administration, or they're looking for getting a passport, or they're looking for understanding the process for naturalization, and they're having to go to different locations and different meetings and fill out these forms. These things can be very daunting for customers. And when they come into the library, many times they're not just looking for where do I go, but how do I navigate through that? How do I uh, effectively and quickly, normally, make sure that I am able to understand it, even if I might have some challenges with understanding the language itself? What resources are available to me, whether this is a person or whether this is, an online translator or translation that can assist me in being able to do so. So, as library staff members, in some instances, it is not our requirement to have to know it thoroughly, right? 100% be experts at it. But it is part of our requirement to be able to be informed enough to assist the customer when needed. And of that's really the goal of what we're doing. So the first idea is, what does the organization do? We talked about Queen's Library and how we use our organizational mission statement and our core values and our vision in order to support what we do. So if somebody really wanted to know what Queen's Library did, easily they can go to our website and find it under our mission statement. So that's the first key of being able to support the customer, is to know what these organizations actually do. Many times an organization has multiple purposes, it has many departments, and they might have certain areas of expertise. So we want to know, just in a ballpark, what are some of the services and some of the expertise that these organizations have. So for instance, if we're sending somebody to the DMV is not just a place to get a driver's license. Maybe they're trying to get an ID, just a regular ID. Or maybe they need to renew their registration. Or maybe they're trying to get a car in the first place and they're trying to understand what the system is in order to purchase a car, get it registered, get all of that information together so they can get their license plate, their tags, and those are things that simply, if it were just to buy a car, they could probably go to a car lot or somewhere and buy a car, right? But then there's so many more things they have to understand. They have to understand what credit is. They have to understand how credit scores affect their ability to buy a car or their ability to pay low interest rates on a car. Once again, even though we as a library are not providing that direct service, or we're not providing all of those services, it is important that we understand who does. And if we can partner with them or bring them in, that's even better. Additionally, we want to think about what is the intent of the customer. And if we understand the intent of the customer, that will be much easier to be able to refer them to another organization. And so And so when we are looking at dealing and working with customers from different language backgrounds, different cultural backgrounds, anybody who comes into the library, we want to think about what do we do and then what do these other organizations do. Some other things to consider about these organizations are are they paid services? Are they free services or are they on a sliding scale? For instance, the New York Legal Assistance Group, who wrote the legal workshops for immigration and citizenship that we have in the IMLS grant, they provided us the service of immigration law. But many people can go there for all the other types, whether this is housing and eviction, whether this is civil or small claims court information. New York Legal Assistance Group has a much bigger expertise. But when they have a much bigger expertise, we might only focus on one unit because that's what we understand. So understanding and knowing that the New York Legal Assistance Group is in fact bigger and has a much larger organization than what we see might be more useful. And it can assist our customers in being able to now be able to go encounter these organizations and understand what they're getting into. Additionally, we want to think about what these organizations are. Are they governmental organizations, which generally has a lot of red tape? They generally have a lot of long processes, a lot of forms. Are they nonprofit organizations that might be community based, or if they're nonprofit and they're a national or international nonprofit? Or are they private or for-profit organizations, ones that might require payment in order to have the services rendered? We want to know these things not because we want to be experts on what organizations are profits and nonprofits, but we want to be able to prepare our customer by us understanding that this is a for-profit organization, and unfortunately, there are no nonprofits that offer this. One example of that would be a credential evaluation or a credential translation. There are no really truly known nonprofits that will do that service for free because it's a lot of labor, it's a lot of work. It takes international contacts. It takes a long time to just complete one evaluation. So many times those are paid services, but those are services that our customers may very well need. We also want to think about any privacy concerns, especially now and over the last couple of years. We've been looking at privacy concerns, and many of our customers in Queens and in the New York tri-state area are worried about immigration status and what does that mean for the services that they can have. And as we transition into a new presidency and a new government, new Congress, we do have to think about the executive orders such as DACA, because those are not law, they're executive orders. So what do we do in the case that customers come to us? We need to be able to refer them to people who are experts in what could potentially happen and what we can see over the next couple of years. We also want to think about immigration status at other places. So some organizations might require you to be a permanent resident and prove permanent residency, even without having to demonstrate that to the government, right? So certain grants might say that this grant is only allowed for permanent residents, or this grant is only allowed for citizens, or this grant is only allowed for a specific target population. Now, it's not our duty to know what the grant means, but it is up to us to be able to give at least enough information to prepare that customer. Secondly, we want to know, does this organization have any specific requirements before the customer can actually get these services? Once again, for many of our patrons, time is of the essence, right? And even for us, time is of the essence. It's very challenging when it might be 2 hours to wait to get your services just to find out that you can't get it because you didn't meet the requirements or understand those. And so I'll be sharing with everybody a few websites that you can just have bookmarked, such as Access NYC, Site, or Law Help New York, that assist in being able to get customers quickly to information. And it gives a list of requirements generally before they have to encounter this organization. So some things we want to think about are whether or not these requirements are under particular characteristics or demographics. Is this a women's shelter? Is this for formerly incarcerated residents? Are there any financial requirements? Do you have a minimum income? Do you have to have a maximum income? Are there family size requirements? And these are things, once again, you don't have to be experts on, but just to know that this organization typically does have requirements can help you say and prepare them for this is what you might qualify for if you reach out to them. And this is the person that you'll talk to, or this is the program that you'll go to, and they will be able to provide you with the rest of the requirements and to let you know whether or not you do qualify for these services. There are several organizations, such as New York Legal Assistance Group, that do offer some of their services for free and others on a sliding scale. So if you make enough money and your family size is smaller, you might pay more than if you are earning less money and you have a larger family size, right? So we think about these requirements and these specific issues before we send them or connect them to these services. So when we do think about this, we think about whether or not this organization has known documents and forms that must be obtained or completed. One important and one key form is, for instance, the N-400 for anybody who is applying to become a naturalized citizen. This form is required and it comes with a fee. Sometimes there are programs where you can get it for low cost or free if there are grants or support in that state or in that region. And we think about, first, do we know any of the documents that might need to be filled out? Some of these forms and some of these documents are online, which helps it make the process much easier for the customer to just come in. And if you connect them or help them connect to the website, then they'll be able to start going through the documents and forms prior to their arrival at that organization. Sometimes those documents have to be printed. You might have access to those documents at your own library, such as in the citizenship corners. If you have N-400s, you have other documents that will help supplement that for getting citizenship, and then looking at anybody who's a derived citizen, meaning that they get the benefits, such as children. If the parents become a citizen, the kids under a certain age also can become citizens. We also want to look at any documents we have, such as brochures and pamphlets from these organizations that will be available to our customers, so that we don't have to be the experts fully on it, but we have the brochure that will provide this information. So if we know just a little bit about the system and a little bit about how to prepare our customers, then we know that our customers are going to be more equipped to encounter these organizations. And the final piece we want to look at in this is, are there any specific contacts that the customer should go to? If you know there's somebody in the organization that is very willing to say, I am the principal contact, come to me, that is actually extremely helpful. At other times, that might not be the case, and that's okay, right? Because many times you might know a director or a manager who might not directly work with customers. However, they might be able to connect you with somebody who does work with the customer directly or the client directly in order to ensure that this person is getting the services rendered that they need. So one example of this is when you work with other community partners. I know that we work with somebody from the Queen's Cancer Center, and there's a nurse in that organization who comes into the library to do some programming for the staff, for the public, and to connect people with outside organizations. So when customers meet this nurse at the library, they already trust the library. They feel comfortable reaching out to this person because the library has accepted this person in. And so her willingness and her ability to speak with the customer builds this trust relationship. Then she can now hold their hands, so to speak, as they go through this process because they were in direct contact with her. These are the processes and the partnerships that we want to look at. Additionally, we've held programming from the library at outside organizations such as the Queen's Cancer Center, so that if our customers go into this institution, they go into a lower stress context, right? They have lower stress levels. So if they know that this resource now exists, they're able to take advantage of this resource, and they know that they can trust it because they trust the library, and the library trusts this organization, so that customer is going to feel more inclined to trust that organization or that program. Additionally, when we partnered with Planned Parenthood, for instance, a lot of staff went to attend a tour of the Planned Parenthood facility that just opened up here in Queens. And so now staff members, through this partnership, can now feel a little bit more comfortable when they're making referrals where needed, because they're informed of what the customer will expect. They're informed of what the facility looks like. They're informed of some of the processes that a customer might go through. So even if that staff member now informs the customer of what to expect, the customer will now be able to call more confidently. And then when they arrive at the facility, they now have a sense of trust and safety, even more so than if they went into the facility cold turkey, right? They just walked into it. So it is important to think about what contacts and what specific partnerships we have. So as I mentioned before, just to kind of recap, the library is a hub and a launching point for relationship building. And we want to think about that. We are a community-based organization that both supports the community, but we also build community. And when we build community, we're connecting ourselves with customers, we're connecting ourselves with other organizations, and we're connecting our customers to other organizations. An excellent perspective and an excellent view of this is to be able to discuss some of the ways that customers can see these various organizations outside, even if it doesn't reflect the purpose of the referral. And what I mean by that is the customer might come in with one question, but then by giving them a little bit more, such as, oh, there's an organization that does a lot of work with homeless populations. They also work with families with young children, helping connect them to benefits in different organizations. And then you address their need. Therefore, I feel that this organization will be the best organization, or this service might be the service that you're looking for, because this organization has a history of doing X, Y, and Z. So it helps the customer to understand why the organization may ask additional questions that might seem unrelated to what the customer went in there initially, because they usually tend to screen the customer for other services. So if you go to a place such as the library, and you see that the customer might need, if the customer comes in and they ask for a book in grammar, right, and you can tell that they might have a low English proficiency, that's helping to screen. So maybe you might consider taking an English class, or if you have high enough, maybe taking a basic literacy or a high school equivalency class to get used to that. Also, if you're looking for grammar, are there any writing courses that could be useful for you? These are ways that we're doing the same thing. We're screening the customer in a way to make sure that the services that they're coming in for are also um, are provided, but to make sure that they are not missing additional services that might be pertinent to their success. If time does permit, another opportunity for this is to do mock interview sessions. Now, many times we don't have a lot of time to do that, but there are certain questions that many organizations ask. They generally ask about family size, they ask about income, they ask about residency. So, do you live in a city? What neighborhood do you live in? They ask for proof of address generally. These are things that we want to prepare our customers for. So having the customer even come up with a 3 or 4 item list of most organizations require proof of address, proof of residency. They require some kind of identification. If you're looking for financial assistance, you're looking for any documentation of income. And then you're also looking at if you receive any other benefits currently. You would want to bring those in. So one way that we can do this is just a quick kind of uh, acronym that we can use, which is DRAG, right? And the first one is determining the purpose of the visit. Normally, the customer comes in, they come in and ask a question, and this question is usually pointed if they understand or they speak the language well enough to be able to give you all of the information. So they say, I'm here for English classes. Okay, so you're here for English classes. So that's the purpose of the visit, is to look for and identify English classes. Secondly, you might look for reference. So referring customers to known and trusted resources. So whether this is online or whether this is in person, when you vet a resource, you're able to more confidently refer that customer to them. When we do it internally, we trust the other parts of the organization. So you know that if you refer to the Job and Business Academy, that customer is going to get what they need. If you're referring them to older adult services, or if they're looking for specific services that they need, you know that's a trusted resource. If a parent comes in with children, you would refer them to the children's librarian, so that is a trusted resource. If they need assistance with technology, you're going to refer them to specialists, the customer service specialist, right? So you're looking at different ways that we do it internally, but there are also externally vetted organizations that we want to think about. A way to vet these organizations is to offer workshops on the various organizations, right? So this is advising on the process. And when you advise on the process, you are looking at what items are necessary. So offering various organizations for them to be able to come in and talk about their organization, tabling events, etc. You're also looking at any other partnerships and connections that you have that you can advise the customer on. And then finally, give additional resources if time permits, of course, because if you have 10 people in a line and you are looking to support the customer, time does not always permit to provide multitudes of resources. So having a few attached or near you, such as the ones that are provided online, would be useful, because those are quick sheets that you can go into that these resources will be able to be for accessing these resources. Another way to do this is to refer customers to coping skills workshops that are provided by the New Americans program. These coping skills workshops are provided in English and in other languages so that you can bring in speakers from other agencies to the library to present on their services, including typical scenarios for customers, right? Or even if you can't bring this person in, finding somebody who you can converse with and discuss what are some of the options for you. This is a perfect example to do so. We look at referring people if additional resources can't be provided from your end, that you refer them to case managers if you can. Um, Such as there's a case manager at Long Island City, there's one in Flushing, there's one in Rochdale. They're throughout the system. And so connecting customers to these case managers is also an additional resource that is important and useful for our customers. And even if they don't use that resource all the time, if they don't use that resource all the time, it is still something that they have, right? And they're now aware that that is a useful resource. So just using this quick four-step process, determining the purpose, referring to known and trusted resources, advising on the process, just really quickly. Hey, I'm referring you to the Job and Business Academy. They have certain events that go on. You can go to their desk during these hours and bring your resume if you have one, or bring certain information on your work history if you have it, so that they can assist you better. If you can't meet with them, giving additional resources, right? If you can't meet with them, you can also go to the case manager here, and this case manager is located at this location. You can give them a call and they can schedule an appointment with you. And that's the 4 steps of thinking about what they need, how to refer them, advising on it, and giving those additional resources. So I do want to share with you one last piece, which I feel is important to kind of think about. And this is another example of how we can prepare the customer. So if we know a person at the organization, or we know that the organization might require a little bit more than just walking in and getting the services, if you are comfortable, or if you know the person at the other organization, you can take some time to call and say, I have a person who's coming in. I can provide to you a little bit of background information. They're going to be coming in right now. And then if the customer is comfortable with somebody from that other organization reaching out to them, that's an additional point of contact, right? Because if the customer trusts you and you trust the other organization, the customer is more likely to trust that this other organization will be useful and helpful to them. Additionally, if they are comfortable with somebody reaching out, and it's not going to work for all staff members, right? But it is useful for if you're working with customers, especially in stressful situations, that we can make a little bit easier. So this is using your judgment and using your expertise in understanding what the customer's needs are, and seeing if this is an extremely tough situation for them, if they're going through a divorce, if they're having medical issues, if they are juggling multiple jobs and children. These are stressful situations. So what can we do as an organization, as individuals, to help lighten up the load? Okay. Sometimes you can even send an email. You can send an email to a case manager that says, hi, I'm reaching out from Lefferts, and I have a customer who's going to be coming to see you sometime this week. This is their name. They came in with this issue, and they said it's okay for me to provide that information if you want to reach out to them. That's an easy way to help the customer get into that process a little bit easier. So when you think about these things, we want to focus on ensuring that we provide the best resources, and we are prepared ourselves to provide these resources. So at this time, if there are any questions, you can go ahead and ask questions, and then we'll wrap up shortly. I just have to do a few housekeeping items with everybody, and then we'll be all set. So, are there any questions? Hi, Luana. Yes, you will. I'm actually this week now that I'm actually in office for a full week. I haven't been for a couple of weeks. I will be posting all of these webinars online by the end of this week. That's my goal. So you will be able to see this again, so that you can kind of see this. I understand like drag here might be extremely useful. They will be posted online under Cohort 5 webinars on the program. Yep. Okay, are there any other questions? All right, so if you have questions, you can type them in. I'll just address some of these housekeeping things. So remember that the end of the cohort is December 16th. Unfortunately, this cannot be extended fully. If you do have some issues or trouble coming up, you can send me an email directly and we can address it on a case by case. But December 16th is the final deadline. The next and last webinar is Tuesday, December 6th. Okay, so there are only 7 webinars. They should all be posted online except for the last one by Friday, and that will be the last one. The post assessment and feedback are after each module. So you have module feedbacks in workshops 3, 6, 9, and 12. You had a pre-assessment and you have the post-assessment. Remember that these pre and post assessments are not graded, so they do not have any true reflection of on your job or your job description. What this is saying is asking us whether or not the learnings from the workshops were effective. Like, did you learn more by the end of it than you had at the beginning? Were you more knowledgeable about some of these resources? So we don't have a pass or fail on the post assessment. We just do a comparison between how many participants did better by the end of the workshops than at the beginning. So there is no pass or fail, and I don't receive the scores at all from the post assessment. I get the average percentages at the end, so I have no individual scoring. But NYU will send me an email of anybody who did not complete the post assessment so that I can reach out to you to make sure it's completed. If you're looking at seeing if you're on track with your modules, I do have some really good news, which is good for, I think, myself and all of us. First, always refer to My Achievements. What we realized with the scoring issue was that My Achievements was correct, but what you were seeing in when you were going through the lessons was incorrect, and that was a coding issue when we constructed an extra layer on the system. So if you want to know if you took the pre or post assessment, shoot me an email and I can let you know if you completed at least the pre-assessment. But at this time, the pre-assessment, I believe, is closed. So you should still only take the post-assessment if you have not completed it before. Secondly, if you're looking at the modules, go to My Achievements and make sure that it'll say passed, or in progress. It might say failed if you did not complete one workshop. I'm trying to get that verbiage changed because, of course, we're not failing anything. It's just incomplete. But overall, I believe most of you are